Hey guys, welcome to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We are back, and you can see we still have my bearded friend. I've just switched out the Polish guy. For what kind of guy are you, Jordan?
You could say Italian guy, maybe. I don't know. I feel like me and Paws go back and forth with this.
So
he just got replaced. So,
Matt, you know, for how long that guy can get away on vacation, I don't know how he does it. But I guess he figures that this is what I'm wondering. If it's just like hockey, you kind of get a clue. Maybe he's going away because there's no way he can afford a third kid to take on a vacation. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's the inside information. There's another kid on the way.
Well, for most people, 2 weeks is usually long enough for vacation, but he needs double that. So.
Yeah, we shouldn't rub into his sensitive side. So everyone, guys, we have former guests, also former co-host, and now today's co-host, and will be joining me. So Jordan has been a longtime contributor of the show, helped us in the early beginnings, and has been there throughout the years. And he will be with me on Rev's Top 15 this week. So why don't we go ahead, and I'm just going to quickly put this out there really quick for everybody, because not everybody is familiar about what's coming up this week here, guys. So let's just go to the segment.
Rev's Top 15.
Brought to you by the electronic hard rock band Penny Billionaires. Look for them wherever you find your music. Are you there?
I am.
White. I've gone white. I don't know what's wrong with my. I just like. Okay, I'm back, man. It's like a flash. It's been a busy day. Everything's all over. Just want to throw a shout out to all you guys that are checking in right now, especially over on X. Hey, welcome if you're coming in on Facebook or on YouTube. So Rev's Top 15 this year. Last year we went for the first time. We went to a fully live. So that means the moment the draft started. So we started at 5 o'clock, and that's 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that's 7 Eastern for those that can't figure that out. And we know some of you guests can't always figure that out. You've already let us know that. For you Easterners, I don't know what it is about Easterners. But anyway, Jordan is going to be joining me for that show. He might have to check. That's a long time. Hopefully your battery will stay intact for that period of time. We could be 3.5 hours, man.
That and 3 or 4 Red Bulls, right?
Just remember, don't mix it with any beer, or you might be in trouble. So, what's going to happen is we're going to go on a half an hour early, just because we do have some interviews that I've been able to line up. I've got 2 of them done today. We also have another minimum 4 to 5 interviews between now and next week. We're going to air some of their comments. We're going to talk about some of the. Who are you excited, like just as a little bit of a lead into on draft night? What's going to intrigue you the most going into this? Is there the potential to be trades? Who goes first? Who goes third? Like, what's your thought?
I think my biggest is all the talk around teams potentially moving up or teams moving down. There is a couple teams with multiple picks as well, which always is interesting. You have, like Montreal, for example, you have back-to-back picks. And they have drafted high lately. So do they need both picks? I'll just put it into perspective for you. So the Oilers 2015, we traded one of our first round picks, which was a mid-round pick, to get Griffin Reinhart. And there would be teams, I feel like, that would do that just to get that player to maybe push them forward. And I feel like this is the year to do that, with a lot of cap coming in as well. Every team getting an extra $9 million in cap. I mean, this is the year to do it. So,
you know, it's something that's interesting too. When there will be some stories that we can probably dig into of who got traded. You know, I'm sure you remember, who did the New York Islanders draft with that draft pick they took from the Edmonton Oilers?
They took Barzal, and there was Kyle Connor, there was Thomas Chabot in that range, like probably tons of other guys. Yeah, it was, yeah, messed up that one. But I mean, that's a price that you pay. Like teams throwing around first rounders, even in trades, it's like that's the price you pay as a potential star. So.
Yeah. Well, and I remember, because we're talking a little bit about Edmonton. Of course, we're going to get into them in a bit here. What about everyone was pushing for Jesse Puljujarvi. I know most people had him ranked high. Too much based on the World Junior, which we'll get more into about how much weight do you put into a World Junior. But they missed out on the power forward who won the Memorial Cup. And that guy just got back-to-back Stanley Cups, Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, I mean, tons of guys that draft. There was Olli Juolevi as well, right at the top of the draft that teams would rather take over a guy like Sergachev, who's still in the NHL doing great things in Utah. So, I mean, you never know. Like that's the draft for you. Like on draft day, you're looking at these guys and you're just looking at numbers. You're not really looking at the character or the guy, the man they're going to grow into. So, and they talk about that all the time in the draft is character, right?
Well, and you know, it's interesting as much as we talk to all these different guys that are scouts, and you're right, that they're so interested in the character of people. They're less interested in how strong they are. They're less interested. I mean, they rate people so high. And it's not about analytics for almost 90% of them. It's becoming more so, as Dan Tenser of the Blades had just let us know recently. But I mean, interesting enough, though, what I'm really going to be interested in is there's talks about trades every year, but will this be the year when it's an exciting trade?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, especially with the top of the draft. Like people not sure what the Islanders are going to do, what San Jose is going to do, what Chicago is going to do. I hear Philadelphia is in that mix as well. I know Nashville has like 3 first-round picks. Like, what are they going to do as well with the team that wants to win now? I mean, there's so much that can happen.
Well, speaking of Nashville, why don't we wrap this section, guys, for Rev's Top 15? Because we want to talk to you about some news that just came down today.
Rev's Top 15.
Brought to you by the electronic hard rock band Penny Billionaires. Look for them wherever you find your music.
Okay, why don't you give everybody the update? What just happened with the Nashville Predators? Let's take a moment and talk about them.
Well, hearing that Roman Yossi's had some troubles lately, and it's just over in Europe. It was just kind of discovered today. Kind of what I've been looking up and what I hear is it's maybe like a mispronounced report of that he actually should be back for the next season, and it should be fine. But something to be kind of scared of, especially he's not a young guy either. So something to keep an eye on.
What was that year? How many points did he have? Didn't he almost hit 100 that one season?
Yeah, I think he was like 90 something or other. Yeah, like unreal. And he's consistently one of the best defensemen in the league. So.
I mean, to me, that was his year. To get those points and be that defensive, that was crazy. In fact, I give Matthias Ekholm, it's his time with Roman, to me, that he learned so much. I feel like Roman was his mentor.
And it's crazy if you're a Nashville fan because you also had a trade on the day too. So.
Well, yeah. So, okay, who came over and where from?
Yeah, so you got Eric Holla coming over from New Jersey, kind of like your energy third line center, maybe even fourth line. It's just depending on kind of who he's with. Guy that's been in the league for a while. I really like him as a player. And the other way is going Jeremy Hansel. He was a guy that was on Seattle Thunderbirds just a couple of years ago at the Memorial Cup. And I think he was maybe I'm wrong, but he was a plus 70 as a defenseman in the WHL, which is just unheard of. Just insane.
Because you love the WHL so much, and we always like to joke back and forth on this, I'm going to take that you're pretty close, if not dead on that. But by the way, I just so Zill's coming in. She wants to know if I'm wearing PJs. No, I'm not wearing PJs. I'm just wearing one of those shirts that you can see through and maybe see a nipple or two. Anyway,
that's showing off the man boobs.
yeah. Not to mention I'll be getting a little steroids for pain management, and I might be a little moody tonight, Zill. So just a heads up. So this is what's interesting, and we'll talk more on June 27th. See what happens. Is what direction is Nashville going here? Like, are they?
That's
like,
what I
there's-
mean with the 3 first-round picks. It's like, well, you're obviously getting Holla is not like he's not a young guy either. Like that's a load up trade. That's a guy to solidify your depth, which would tell me you're trying to make a run.
So you think they're gonna, like, just hypothetically, you think they're trying to run this back? That doesn't even make sense. I thought they're gonna sell off here.
And what's crazy is like you have Marchessault that maybe wants out, and other players like you hear Ryan O'Reilly constantly like in trade rumors. Like, so like what is this team actually going to do? What's their plan going forward?
Okay, so Matt says get rid of Ekholm and Stu Skinner and Darnell Nurse, and we should get elite goalie and don't know who though. I love it, Matt. You have all these suggestions for the Oilers right now, and we're going to get to that right away here for you, Matt. We're going to talk about the Stanley Cup Finals. But it's interesting. I like how you say you don't know, because I think that's maybe what ownership is wondering too. We don't know what to do. So why don't we jump into this? Matt's already got us talking. We can come back to Nashville probably more on June 27th here. Okay, thoughts. Give me your thoughts, man. Stanley Cup Finals.
On the Stanley Cup Finals. Well, I thought it was kind of interesting for both teams because I thought both teams, I wouldn't say an easy road. If you look at the teams they played, they're really tough teams. They made it look easy. And then when it got to the Stanley Cup Finals, it wasn't easy for one of the teams. So the other team made it look easy again. So it was a common theme, I think, that went through the playoffs, which is just doesn't ever happen, I feel, like watching the playoffs. I think you're shocked as an Oilers fan how it ended, and even how it got there. And I think you're kind of surprised if you're a Florida fan, because I feel like repeating is just not an easy thing to do. It doesn't matter what sport you play, so especially hockey.
Okay, so Zill says Oilers won't win Cup now for at least 12 years. Okay, that's an interesting take, Zill. Is that your emotions as a Vancouver Canucks fan? 12 years? So you're saying without their superstars, and then how will they win a cup in 12 years, man?
There must be some guy in the WHL coming up that she thinks Oilers are going to pick up on, eh?
Okay, and Matt says, do you think McDavid will leave? Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to talk more Stanley Cup, but there's questions out there. Let's do it. What's your thoughts?
No would be my first answer. I'm not saying it's impossible. His wife just opened a bar in the city. I'll start with that, I guess. His wife owns a couple businesses. They own properties here. He has a house here. Not to mention his best friend, Leon Draisaitl, just signed for 8 years, lives in the neighborhood of where he lives, and the wives are close, obviously, as well. So I can't see it happening. And if you were to break it down, that's just in a personal standpoint, okay? Everything I just said was just at a personal level.
Right.
As a player level, who is he going to play with that's better than Leon Draisaitl? And I'm sure you can toss out names, like he can go to Colorado or he can go to other places as well. And you know what? He could, but does he have that chemistry like he does with Leon Draisaitl, which he knows he has?
Yeah.
Right. And Edmonton is good right now. Who's to say if he goes somewhere that it works out, right? And then what do you do, right?
Well,
so,
and let's face it, we're all estimating, but let's just say, it might be lower, but I mean, let's just say 18 million, right? So if you're talking 16 to 18 million dollars, it's not being under 16. There's been no numbers I've heard tossed around yet, other than hypotheticals. So if you're doing that, you're going to have to fit him in to be on a contending team, to a team, because he wants to win. He wants to be back in the cup. He wants to get back. So how are you going to get him under a cap? Like Toronto wants him. How are you going to get him under the cap?
I know it's funny. Spitting Chicklets guys were joking around how they're the new core four in Edmonton, just because they'll be so cap strapped. Honestly, could happen if they just decide to keep all of them. It actually won't work, even with the cap going up. it definitely makes it easier and less of a blow with the cap going up, and he's worth the money and everything like that. I just think that he'll take a team-friendly deal at the end of the day. Whether that's $1 million or $2 less, we'll see. Kind of the number that I see is 16. I could be wrong, but
yeah.
We'll find out. I feel like we'll find out July 1st, kind of where McDavid's head's at, if not sooner on the extension. Like, you'll hear your rumors right before free agency. But
yeah, you got to
we'll
wonder.
soon.
I mean, you can't let the player go. You got to sign for whatever he'll do, and it's going to be up to him how competitive the team is for what he's willing to leave on the table. Essentially, Zill has Marcel Dion never got a cup, even when Gretzky arrived. After Gretzky, was Marcel still playing when Gretzky arrived? Though Zill, that I'm not familiar with. I'd have to look that up. I did not think he was, because that was during the time of Luc Robitaille. Luc Robitaille was their left winger. I didn't think Marcel was still there. So. But Marcel is one of those greats to me. The one of the ones that has been forgotten over the years, of course, around it. And what was the other thing you had mentioned? Both teams repeated. I think you're referring to this year. Well, and this goes. Let's go back to the Stanley Cup. Is it possible you could look at I'm guessing maybe the 50s. I haven't done my studies going back to the original 6 days. Has there been a three-peat of the same teams for 3 straight years since expansion? I don't know if there has.
No, I think the Oilers were probably the closest to that, having two-peats within 5 years span.
Yeah.
But I don't believe anyone else. Yeah. Like Montreal, obviously, but recently, no. Recently, you've had teams close, like the two-peats, and that's it. But
it's and this will be interesting, because now the whole thing comes down to dynasty. Is there a potential dynasty in place? A lot of people wanted to say back. Now I go back to the 80s, and I remember people. Because I was in Calgary as a teenager, so of course I couldn't acknowledge they were a dynasty in Edmonton, right? Because they couldn't have more than 2 in a row. That was the kind of thing. They got 3 years to the Cup. They only won twice, and then they missed out to Calgary, won 2 more years, missed out to Calgary, 1 a year. But that many times and that was a dynasty. You look back, it. A lot of people feel Chicago was kind of like a dynasty. So now I'm looking at Florida, and I've said to a lot of the folks that, a little bit older, maybe you've been around, they're like the New York Islanders. But Jordan, you've been around during the days of the New Jersey Devils, and I'm getting people telling me they are more like the New Jersey Devils during their Stanley Cup years. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, in a sense, I think it's crazy to say that it's a blueprint, but it is, of keeping your core guys, because New Jersey just did that. They did that, and they held on to everyone that they could as long as they could, and that's why they at least did damage in the playoffs or got to the Cup final and then could win cups. And that is going back to guys like in free agency, like Marners and guys like that. That's why you keep your stars. That's why you keep your core 4, core 3, or whoever it is for the chance to win, and then surrounding them with that cast. And the only way you can do that is drafting. So,
right. Well, one of the things I would say about the Florida Panthers, right? They may have shut down Connor McDavid, but I think more credit needs to be given. Something was brought up. I forget who I read it from, and so I took down my notes that they said over the past 2 playoffs, Florida, of course, McDavid had 4 goals in 13 games. But Kucherov had 0 goals in 10 games. Austin Matthews had 1 goal in 7. Pasternak had 1 goal in 6. Panarin had 1 goal in 6 games. I mean, they're used to shutting down teams' best scorers.
I think maybe say if they got back there again, maybe a team with that overall depth, like that 2016 St. Louis, or just a team that's just absolutely loaded throughout their lineup. That is the team maybe to beat them, not necessarily a team that's top heavy. So, because then you can't do that, right? Like you can't shut down everyone. Eventually a team's going to break through. That's how Florida is built. So
That's
not
true.
saying they're not top heavy, but
All right, Matt, you said you have a feeling they'll be back next year. I hope Oilers management makes the good moves. That's going to be it. So let's hypothetically play GM, play around right now. First, let's look at Florida. How are they going to bring? They got Aaron Ekblad, Brad Marchand, and why am I missing Sam Bennett, the big guy, the guy that won the Conn Smythe. I'm hearing they have been working for a while. A deal for Sam Bennett.
Yes.
He will take that discount to stay there. But what is the discount, though? That's the question. And what will they have to let go of? So from my perspective, I think they're going to let Aaron walk. I think they're going to try to sign Brad Marchand, bring a different defenseman. They're really good at bringing in new defensemen and finding the – I was worried about this year for them. And, mean, they found it to work. Seth Jones has reinvented himself to the guy he was when he was drafted. I mean, you never talked about him much in the playoffs, which is actually a good thing.
Well, they have like $19 or $20 million to spend. You could fit all three if you do $20 million, but you have 7 guys to sign. So like that doesn't work. And that's just to have a full roster. So one's got to go, I would say.
Yeah. So, let's just say, hypothetically, you say Bennett. I mean, we're hearing crazy numbers. Let's just say 7.5. And Marchand, you bring in maybe at the same around there. So you got 14.5. So that only leaves you then, what, $5.5 million. So that's not going
to, like 5 other guys, right?
Yeah. So that's why I think, I mean, it's going to be tough for them to see Ekblad gone. But then, he put him in a kind of a tough spot, though, and they're a team that likes to have good character, and that's suspension. You never know.
Yeah, but talk about the Seth Jones pickup. Like, he was fantastic for them. So, I mean, you got rid of a guy, but you replaced him with something, right?
Well, and look at Chicago. Knight came in and looked great, and Seth was a nightmare there. I mean, Chicago, that turned out, that was truly a hockey trade, even though it wasn't meant to be a hockey trade.
And on the other side, Florida is going, well, we drafted this guy first overall. Aaron Ekblad has never played anywhere else. So why wouldn't you keep him in that sense as well? Like, this guy's super loyal to you, obviously, as well. Obviously, he's had some problems off the ice, but I don't think that factors into everything. So,
okay. So Zill says Oilers didn't fight enough. They got to sign on some WHL fighter dudes. Hey, Jordan.
Well, that's funny you say that. I feel like kind of what I'm hearing is potentially they're keeping Frederick. So that's a guy that can fight for you for a long time. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer. Yeah, 8 years is oh my
gosh. I got to be honest with you. I'm looking. I saw that coming in that they've been working on this, and I'm like, are you serious? I get that he had an injury. I thought he was okay in Boston. It's just like, oh man, I'm worried that contract's going to be one that Bowman's going to regret down the road. That's what I'm.
Well, and here's the thing. Maybe this quiets Oilers fans' minds a little bit. Remember last year, Kane in the playoffs was just non-existent. Yeah. And it was because he was injured. And then Frederick, maybe he was still injured. And what did Kane do this year? Other than take penalties, he was fantastic. He was one of the better Oilers, I thought, in the playoffs. So maybe a healthy Frederick, maybe you get that, and it's for cheaper than Kane. So, and he's younger. So
all right. So Zill has Matt. That's just wishful thinking. He goes, the stats don't back that. That they actually will be back next year? Let me just go back and look. I don't know. I could see the Oilers running this back quite easily. When you got 2 superstars, I think the key is a goalie. They're going to have a goalie that can step in and they can run with it. I believe this from the very beginning. You guys can go check out some of my stuff at Rev and Ev. By the way, guys, just a heads up, our 4 sponsored partnerships. Check out our JR Web Designs. If you're looking for a great deal on a website, they'll give you a great price. Penny Billionaires, that is our intro, outro music that you hear, electronic hard rock band out of Phoenix, Arizona. And you guys all know the creator, Hart Levine, who put together Puckpedia. And they are no longer the Kalkaska Battlers of the American Premier Hockey League. They're a Senior A semi-pro. Basically, they are now the Northern Michigan Warhounds. I just am not changing with the season so close to the end out our stuff. So I'll explain it as well as if I can just kind of send you guys over towards our site, check out all of our former guests. Be free to go around, check out their links, find out about some of our former players and guests that have actually been on the show, and then check out any of the articles that were there. Don't forget to follow us. Every Wednesday, we go live at 7 p.m. We've had a few weeks we were early, so I apologize to those that might have missed that, as well as make sure to like or follow us, not just on Facebook, but maybe over on YouTube. Subscribe and check us out on X. So if you guys are there, you can check out my partner, who's not here tonight, at hockey_2. But I did get the news. Pawel has landed. The cat has landed.
The cat has landed.
The cat has landed in Toronto. I got the news. I don't know if he's going to be re-signing to a new deal for next year. We'll have to see. But he will be back to talk and represent himself next week on Wednesday. And then, you know what, Jordan? He's going to join us for the draft. This is going to be really funny because I wonder how much time he's had to actually spend time learning about the draft, or if he's only going to know the top 4 and no more.
I think he's only going to know about European hockey players. He's been over there for like a month.
I think we should give him his own segment around the rink for next week. Maybe he should know all the stuff going on, right?
Tell us about all these cool Polish hockey players.
Do you think the Checkers or the Canucks win the Calder?
I would say...
have you caught some
Go
of it?
ahead.
Been following? No, have you been following some of what's happening in the AHL?
Yeah, I followed it a little bit. It's super interesting, especially with like Florida's AHL team being there, which is kind of crazy too. I would go with the Canucks over the Checkers, but it's pretty evenly matched. I think with the Canucks stealing a game, like that's kind of big. They're up in the series, obviously, as well. It's a younger team versus an older team, which is interesting, too. I think the Canucks have a lot of really fantastic prospects. They have a goalie that's amazing right now, too. Like, Svedlov's is absolutely standing on his head. Yeah. Like, I like the Canucks. How about you, Evan?
I think I'm feeling the same. I didn't feel that going in. I was thinking the Checkers might be the better team.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, here we see Seelov's doing his work again, one way or the other. And I don't think the Canucks fans are giving him enough credit. I think he could be their goalie even next year, potentially, if you gave him a chance. I really do. Just my opinion. I just think he needs a little bit more time and work into it. But I mean, he's proven himself.
I know Florida's a bit on cloud 9 with their team being there. I wouldn't get super excited because a lot of these guys are like 27 years old. So if they are going to come up and play for the big club, it's going to be on cheap deals, probably not long term, but exciting for the Canucks.
That you are right. That could be a situation where you're dealing with maybe one guy comes up on a low contract or something next year to be able to watch. And you're right. You said it's weird that the Calder Cup is not completed and done before the Stanley Cup. It is really weird. So, talking about the Northern Michigan Warhounds, look at this. Howdy, gents. Hey, how you doing, Dibs? Welcome. It's so good to see you, man. Looking forward to next season. Make sure, just a heads up so you guys know, this is the Northern Michigan Warhounds of the APHL we were just talking about earlier. So they're just checking in quickly on the show. One of our partnerships with them. You guys got to take out, man. You want to have local hockey heroes. These are your guys. So thanks, man, for jumping
I think we're going to have to go down there and interview some players, hey? See how they're doing? See what like a day in the life kind of thing?
Well, we had Zill the Lost Trucker set up to do that, and then we realized their season wasn't as long. And so
Okay.
that way she was actually going to have a chance to get out to the Michigan area and check that out. So, okay. And Zill she's got the howl going. So we should say, yes, sir. And he's like, yes, sir. Going to be amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Howl. Yeah. Oh man, that is good.
Oh yeah. Love that.
So Dibs is an ace at marketing, man. All right. Well, I mean, essentially, so I had an interesting fact that I had pulled up that I found. So during the Stanley Cup playoffs, like, watch this. Logan Stankoven, he made the Western Conference finals as a rookie with Dallas this year. Okay. Last year, sorry. And now again this year with Carolina. That must be some kind of record as a rookie, eh?
Yeah, and can I add on to that? He was in the Memorial Cup the year before. Like, how crazy is that?
That is interesting.
Isn't that insane? Yeah, they were the host, but still, like, Kamloops boy playing on his team and then goes to back in 2 different conferences is insane.
You got to give hats off for that, eh?
I think he's going to, like, obviously I saw him as a junior player. I haven't seen him in the NHL. I think he's going to be fantastic. I even said it then. Smaller guy, but he's so much energy.
Yeah, well, I think he's got a really good fit there. Actually, I think he'll do better there than he would do ultimately. And now I haven't had you on the show. What was your thoughts on Dallas letting go of DeBoer?
I was initially shocked, but obviously, like, after seeing all the comments and like Jake Ottinger saying that was embarrassing that I got pulled, and like I think it's a terrible look for Dallas, especially a guy like your goalie that you just signed to 8 years, and then you're gonna just dog him like that. Like, just see you later, get off the ice. I don't think it was handled properly by DeBoer. But, like, what is it? Like, he's in 6 of the last 7 Western Conference finals, 3 different teams. It's hard to fire him, too. And that's where I kind of was like, wow, like, that's really surprising for me because he's very successful. He didn't make a great move, and it was with a guy that I guess is extremely popular in the locker room. And I think some players had some say in this, unfortunately. And I think I actually love DeBoer. I think he'll be fine going anywhere else. Obviously he's super successful everywhere he's gone.
Yeah.
So,
well, and now, I mean, you still got Mitch Love sitting out there. I mean, Jay Woodcroft is sitting. And by the way, I think Jay Woodcroft is going to have to take an assistant role for a couple of years or something to get back. I think it's ridiculous. Frankly, I am a big Woodcroft supporter. You know, a few bad games they started with. I think he's just as good as Chris Knobloch, but they came out of that funk that no one thought they would. And it's like it's been held against him because he couldn't pull that room together.
Sometimes it takes guys a while. Like, it took Dallas Eakins a couple years in the AHL to get back to the NHL. So that's just how it works sometimes, especially a younger coach.
All right, Pete DeBoer doing what that is what showed he was tired of coaching Dallas. Yeah, that's what it seems like, and right choice to let him go. They didn't have a choice, you know. Like, so I mentioned that on their show live. I already knew that he was actually leaving. You know, in fact, that there was some discussion about where they waiting. So when Pittsburgh, they had 3 interviews with Mitch Love, and then it was all looking like it was locked up. But there was a hesitancy from Dubas. Didn't know about Moose being ready to go over there. But I had heard that it would be a coach that they're maybe waiting on. But I thought that might be they were waiting on Dallas to let Pete go. That was what I was thinking. That was just my own thoughts. But now I'm looking, I'm saying there's some good coaches. So it's not going to take long into next year's season. And there's guys sitting, waiting to go. What did Pete, do you have one more year left on his contract? Do you know what he had left?
I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. I feel like not a lot. Maybe he was extended. Like, it's tough to, who actually follows coaches or GMs? Because obviously their expectancy to stay with the team isn't determined on anything other than how they play. So you could be the greatest guy in the world, but guess what? If your team doesn't perform, you're fired. So,
well, if you want the information, go to our partnership with Puckpedia, guys. They'll be able to find all your information on your coaches, as well as just a heads up. I don't know if you guys like a tool, but you can actually, I know I didn't say feel like a tool, but like to use a tool. They actually have all the listings of all the players, not just their salaries, but they'll have who their agents are and which agents have which players, as well as which agencies have which agents. So it's actually a great place, and you can do a lot of fantasy and build a team. Now, talking about building a team, let's have another conversation, but this time, let's take this conversation around the rink.
If you're a fan of hard-hitting, exciting hockey, catch the Kalkaska Battlers.
Around the Rink
Is brought to you by the Kalkaska Battlers. Let them be your local hockey heroes.
Okay, again, that's the Northern Michigan Warhounds now, which, by the way, Dibs, I still think that's I like Kalkaska Battlers, but now these Warhounds, hashtag howl, yeah.
yeah, hopefully they have a howl of a year, eh?
Oh my god, talk about the best marketing. Okay,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The Olympics just got actually recognized of the teams, a bunch of the teams and the top 6. So when some of this news came out, was there anything that kind of caught you off guard and go, whoa, why was someone omitted? Was there something out there? What did you have any thought to any of the teams, or have you just said, man, I've been so into the Stanley Cup playoffs, I just haven't really got a chance to get into this yet?
I thought a lot of the teams' picks were pretty fair. It wasn't like and that's the thing, like, I feel like these picks are pretty fair, but when it comes down to the actual team, people are going to be like, why is that guy on there? And like, you kind of have to watch the hockey and wait. But I think the only one that really surprised me, and this may be a hot take, but Quinn Hughes on the US team, because he didn't even play in the 4 Nations.
Yeah.
And you're telling me you couldn't have sent any of those other American defensemen, like Zach Werenski? I mean,
Yeah.
Norris nominated Zach Werenski as well. Like, you couldn't have sent him. I mean, a guy that maybe is a surprise for Canada is Devon Taves. I feel like you're sending Makar, you're sending Taves. I feel like that's an obvious pick. Maybe they just wanted to show like all the positions. Canada, surprisingly, not showing goaltending. Yeah, like, I feel like, some of the picks for the teams are just kind of like, this is what everyone is going to say, so we're picking them, I feel like it's a whole year away. You got to wait.
I know, but what about them not actually having Hellebuck after just winning the Hart and the Vezina?
Yeah, crazy.
Like someone said, well, you got to wait and see how he's going to play. It's like, okay, hang on. Was he really worthy of that? Or are you saying he's not a worthy playoff guy? Maybe that's why.
And then if you're Dallas, you're screaming, Ottinger's been a better playoff goaltender. How come he's not on the team? Right? Like,
true.
It's crazy.
Well,
so it's a wait and see, I feel.
I think a lot of people are happy to see both Crosby and McDavid, and I think they're trying to they're trying to maximize that whole piece for Canada, and let's face it, the hockey world, to see Crosby and McDavid. I would just like to see them play together, though. I'm really interested in, like, outside of a power play, obviously, to see how they would play. I'd be perfectly fine. Let Crosby be his centerman and just move McDavid to the wing. Let him work with his speed. That would be like amazing. And let McKinnon can carry his own line.
Just make a super line, all 3 of them.
Literally, your number one line is your number one power play. I mean, that is just insane.
Yeah.
I will say this. I know that Evan Bouchard was not. I do think Evan Bouchard will be on the Olympic team, though. A lot of people
keeps up his play, I think so, yeah. He's got to stay consistent.
And he said, Zill says, agree, Jordan. Thought way too early for some picks. It is kind of a weird timing, wasn't it, with the release? You would think they'd let the Stanley Cup sit for a day or two. like, or even today or tomorrow
Yeah.
announcing.
Yeah, I feel like they probably should have done that, like I feel like any other year they've just had the award show as a different thing. I feel like there's no excitement with it. It's kind of like the All-Star game. It's like people maybe are dogging on it, and you have to build this excitement for it again, right? Like you can't just call them out, and no one wants to see that.
Totally true. Zill's talking about Crosby maybe shouldn't be there. I don't know, man. I think Crosby on his last legs is better than there's maybe 5 players better than him on his last legs right now.
I would say like name one player that's just on the bubble that's better than Crosby. If you're gonna make that, like name one guy that's better than Crosby.
I mean, some people won't like, and I know some of you guys are Oilers fans, so you're not going to like. I actually would take Crosby for this Olympics over McDavid if I had to pick either or. Obviously, McDavid's easily there, and it's only because Crosby is clutch. He always finds a way, and that's why I would. Yeah. And his leadership, I think you and I have probably chatted just on when you were contributing about Messier versus Crosby. So. I believe I mentioned something. You felt Messier might be the best leader ever. Is that true, or did I miss?
Yeah, no, that's correct.
Okay, so you would actually believe what he's done with teams would probably excel what Crosby has done.
I mean, if you got to make the debate though, it's 2 different eras as well, right?
Fair.
So, yeah, like what Crosby has done overall, but there's just it's a different time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and one of the things that I mentioned is I'm just shocked the leadership award. I mean, how many times should Crosby have won the Messier leadership award? Like it's kind of, I don't know. I don't get it. So even talking about award shows, we kind of gone off here. Zill, NHL awards, stupid. Why have show? Okay, last week she didn't get this in. Pavel and I talked about this. Pavel gets all political in his answers. Do you have a non-political answer about your take on them letting everybody know who's already won and still having a show?
I feel like this is one thing they shouldn't show is who all these analysts and people that are voting voted for, because Nick Suzuki had a vote. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like, I think he's a fantastic player, but there's no way he's even a top 5 player in the league. And you're going to have him as an MVP vote? Like, that's crazy. So that person, whoever made that vote, should not vote next year. And those people that are making those ludicrous votes, like I think Marner had I think he had 8 votes in the top 4, which is also crazy. I'm like, he's a top 10 player in the league. Like, how is he even in the conversation for MVP?
Well, my question: who were the 8 people who voted Leon Draisaitl 5th overall? You don't watch hockey. So I know I've talked to a few of the Professional Writer Hockey Association. We have a few different guys that are actually writers that actually vote and get a say. They've shared because I've actually privately on the side sent many of them. I wanted to know their actual votes if they were, just because I hadn't had them all handy. And none of the ones we've had on the show have been that crazy. So I'm glad that we're not bringing on a bunch of crazy guys who are voting. Maybe we should just ask them, what the heck were you doing? Maybe.
Yeah, what the hell were you thinking?
So I think this week, so Pavel, when you're rewatching this, your job is to go and find the writer who voted for Nick Suzuki and the Mitch Marners, and find those guys and get them on our show. That's your job.
Yeah, right. Something. It was probably him that voted.
All right. Okay, guys. So again, there we go. We moved all around. So that was Around the Rink.
If you're a fan of hard-hitting, exciting hockey, catch the Kalkaska Battlers.
Around the Rink
is brought to you by the Kalkaska Battlers. Let them be your local hockey heroes.
Again, that's the Northern Michigan Warhounds now. They've changed over. It's a long story. Go back 2 episodes, I believe, episode 37. And we have Andrew Dibble, the owner of the Calgasco Battlers, who is now a defunct organization. But all the players and most of the group have now moved over and become up into Gaylord, down into Gaylord, Michigan, and are now the Northern Michigan Warhounds. Oh, yeah. Okay. I definitely got to put that on next year's advertisement. Hell yeah. I just love it. And you know what? And I'm not even cussing, man. I'm not even cussing. Okay, so let's kind of talk. Is interesting. I don't want to get into too much of what I was hearing, just kind of around the draft and some of the teams and stuff like that. But I'd like to get your take, because you and I have had back and forth. You know, we jostle and have fun with the whole American and WHL, CHL, things that I haven't actually got your thoughts on the whole NCAA thing now. I mean, it is really morphed into something way more than what it started, and how everyone said this benefited kids. Do you still believe that it benefits the players, or are you worried about things, or are you liking what's happening in the hockey world?
I'm a little worried just because I feel like it's going to ruin the CHL in general with all these players going to college. You see a lot of players like there's Malcolm Spence, who's in the draft, I think he's headed to Michigan or something like that. And you have a player that's maybe a first-round pick that's headed to an NCAA team, and you have Caden Lindstrom a couple of years ago now headed to a team. You know, like I feel like you're ruining these leagues with their star players. And it's not like these star players are going to stay there forever, but it's like to build that league. Eventually it's going to be like, well, are they going to go to college, or are they going to stay in the WHL or OHL, right?
Yeah. It's interesting because they're off the record conversations I can't share. I've basically over the last month now with some people out of the CHL. They can't say something just because they don't want getting back to the owners. They don't want to get back to the commissioner. They have their own thoughts. However, I said to them, I guess I've come across very protective of the BCHL, because everyone said, well, they're just kind of their own little league doing their own thing, and they're basically just outlaws. Everyone forgets that Wild Bill Hunter started with the WHL, took everything and what it was, and they were a rogue league, and they became the major junior what it is today. So I liked what was happening with the BCHL. I felt like there was a lot to change. A lot of American teams were potentially going in. I'm not big on Hockey Canada. I have my own issues. I've talked about that. But I was worried that the players they were taking would not be probably top-line players as it is in CHL teams. They were going to take that development route, but it's also going to knock out, say, a WHL, OHL, Q player. There's still roster spots that were promised that they're going to lose out, and then now they're going to go somewhere in the Canadian junior maybe. Maybe they go to the BCHL. With it. So now what I'm hearing, they're just like, they hate this. A lot of the CHL guys do not like this because they feel like this has now become about money, just like a lot of stuff is in the NCAA. Your thoughts around that?
Yeah. You can't compete with some of these markets too, though. Like if you've seen the tours that they have around some of these big NCAA teams, like their facilities compared to like this small town team out of the OHL, the Q, or the WHL, like they can't compete with that. So the big cities, I think, will still pump out talent, but I feel like the smaller cities where they're really trying to build the fan base, not build the fan base, they have a loyal fan base, but try and build the product on the ice, I feel like it's even harder, right?
It is. Well, and I mean, any young good player now, essentially, you get them for a year, unless he's an exceptional player, essentially. So Zills is coming in. She's saying it's getting scary how many players are declaring, and then of course, then she mentioned that more than 100. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that at the draft. Players that have kind of moved over. We're still waiting on Gavin McKenna. We'll probably talk more about that next Friday. Maybe there could be news. I'm hearing news is impending. Whether that choice is going to be made or not, I'm not sure why there's a timeline, but that's very possible as well. But all I know is right now, we tried to get on. We just couldn't arrange the timing. So I'm hoping for next season when we start in September. But we had one of the board members on with the college hockey in the U.S. And what we've heard is that LSU has been working on something coming in as a major team, getting their hockey. So there's a group around California of 3 universities that are Div 1. But we've had guys in college hockey, and they're like, yeah, we feel like maybe come into Div 3. There's not really a Div 2, just so you guys know. There is, but there isn't. That's a long story. It's confusing, NCAA. Just ask people in college bowls. You'll know how confusing it is. But so here's the thing. All these players go there, but Jordan, these guys in the CHL, they're hockey gods some places. They are the man on campus, the big stud. They get to university, they're an 18-year-old punk. I mean, it's different. They're not playing a full schedule. I think physically they'll be able to warm up. There's probably going to be a lot of distractions with so few games also. That's another worry I have for players. Will that hurt some? And some of them are not going to be used to the academics that are the work that's required in universities there.
Well, that's true as well. I know a silly one, but also drinking age. Think about that, going from Canada to the States.
Yeah. Oh, what did that? Never thought about that. That's so true. Jill, yes, you brought up a good part. Worst part for players, though, is most Canadians will hardly get any meal because of U.S. laws. Yes. And this is, I have been told, I can share this part. I have been told that's one of the things that's kind of holding up potential possibilities for Gavin McKenna, because there was all this talk like, yes, they'll get $100,000. No, it does not work like that. Everything that they're going to get has to be here in Canada, and there are some very specifics. I would love to have someone come on in September to really break down these rules, because they're really confusing for Canadians.
I have an idea. I feel like if you want to make it fair, you could do a draft, and one of the leagues, like, I don't know how you figure it out, but each league gets to draft a player. Let's say you have 4 leagues, so you add the NCAA to the CHL essentially, and they get to draft the best available junior prospect, and they get access to that player. And then next league is, let's say, the WHL gets the second overall to the best junior player available. I feel like that's the only way you could make it fair. I don't think they'll do that, but I feel like that's the only way you could make it fair.
Okay. No, I mean, that would be interesting. I know that I'm a big proponent. First round, even in the NHL, first round, you can draft the 18-year-olds. Second round on, any players being drafted have to be 19. So you can only draft so many 18-year-olds, and it still allows the best of the best. I've heard that theory put out there a few times, and I actually like it.
Or NCAA can only draft American players, and CHL can only draft Canadian players is another one as well. We
haven't even talked about how this is hurting the Canada U Sports, like the players. Like they've gotten so many players, former WHL, especially in the West. That's something that's kept the University of Alberta one of the hockey, I'll call it not hotbeds, but god beds, that have made them so good at what they do. But even in the East, the Reds program and stuff, they have players they pull out of CHL that they're hurt by this now. It's going to affect them. And I love the program, the idea of, they get to play up to 4 years, and that gives them a full scholarship. Your scholarships, yes. I get, this is what someone told me. Now, I've never been to Yale. I haven't been to Harvard, some of these schools, but I was told, and this was around football a couple of years ago, and they said, I would take someone out of a top Canadian university in the same field than I would take out of Yale or Harvard, because I feel when they came out, they're so highly believed, they're so highly intellectual that they're no good. Like they just don't get it. Now, I don't know how true that is, but you know, I do think that prestige, like, hey, I remember when I was young, and GWG, George Washington jeans, by the way, they're no longer a thing, but they were the thing. And then I remember when, you know, what was some of the new names that came out back then? I can't even remember the names now. Essentially, with everyone went for the name brand, just like Harley Davidson, right? Doesn't mean it's the best bike, but people will tell you they love their brand. And I feel like NCAA is a brand.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like in a sense too, for some players, they're like, well, I'm going to just go to college for a couple years. Some players are like, maybe I can still find my way to the NHL by playing on an NCAA team, playing with good players. You don't have quite as good a chance playing university hockey. Not saying it can't ever happen, but Noah Phillip with the Oilers, like, couple of years ago, obviously was found University of Alberta, so it can happen, but it's just super rare. Where NCAA, maybe there's just more eyes on it or whatever the case, but you have a better chance of getting to the NHL.
All right, as we get ready to wrap up, Zil, you have part reason why universities are pushing for athletes to be university employees. Then they can fall under the work visas as opposed to student visas. Not too bad, but you'll love this quote. She's got this. Jordan Brand. Ha ha.
Yeah, I can't say I haven't heard that one before.
All right, man. Well, it's time to wrap up the show and give it a wrap here. I appreciate you jumping on. I'm looking forward to next Friday. I got to be honest with you. So, Pavel, if you're watching, you're going to have to bring it Wednesday, because your buddy Jordan here just brought it this Wednesday. And I'm more interested in next Friday with Jordan joining us than I am in Wednesday. So you better bring it, buddy. Maybe even come with a good rant. I don't know. It could be about us. So any last thoughts before we call it a wrap?
Maybe we just leave him in Toronto. He becomes a Leafs fan. He betrays his hometown team. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I take over his spot.
I'm sitting here right now, and I'm thinking when Hans sees this. So, guys, Hans is a Leafs fan. Hans will be, yeah, come to
Hans will love it.
He will. Maybe Des too. I don't know if Des is around anymore. So, man, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks so much, Jordan. Looking forward to next Thursday. You have a great one, man.
Take care.
All right. In the meantime and in between time, keep your stick on the ice.